All right, go ahead and speak into your microphone.
Sure, I'm ready. You tell me when we're ready to start.
I think that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and start.
Sounds good to me.
So this is the first episode of the podcast called My Side of the Fence. It's named after a blog that I wrote when I was in office. And my first guest is the mayor of Grant Avenue, Rich Meyer. A lot of you guys know Rich. He's been around a minute. Has lived in Manassas since when?
98.
So 98. So he's been around a while. Rich and I met years ago, and he was invaluable when I was in office because I knew zero about politics, and Rich knew a lot about politics. So, Rich, tell us a little bit about, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Bronx a long time ago. Was born in 1950. And I grew up in a regular neighborhood, like in the movies, stickball sitting on the stoop, Jewish delicatessens,
right.
Italian groceries. That's where I first grew up. I'm still growing up. That's where I started.
So how long did you live there?
I lived there through college. I attended NYU, so I was actually living at NYU for several years, clearly. But then after that, New York was on the steep slide.
Right.
It was on the verge of bankruptcy.
Right.
And it was like, man, I just don't see the future here. And so I had an opportunity to go to Texas. I met some guys through my fraternity, and they convinced me to move to Texas, which is what I did.
Did you like it?
Oh, yeah, I liked it a lot. It was like going through the looking glass. In those days, it felt like, even though the arts scene and things like that in New York were cutting edge, a lot of society I thought was very tight. By that I mean, if you had a good idea, the answer might be, no, you can't do that. Whereas in Texas, it was like, hey, let's do that. And I thought that was a very cool thing that I perceived at the time. And in some ways, I liked it a lot. It was completely different. In those days, there were no Mexican restaurants up here. Well, in fact, definitely not in Manassas.
No.
But even in New York. So I didn't even know about cilantro and jalapenos until I moved to Texas, San Antonio to be precise.
So there's lots of Tex-Mex.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was, but it was fantastic. I think another big difference in terms of Tex-Mex food or Mexican food, however you want to refer to it, in San Antonio at least, we just said, hey, let's get some Mexican food. But the difference really is that here you go, hey, let's go out for Mexican food. There, at least at that time, you just said, hey, let's go out to eat.
Right.
And it was just sort of, there were so many great Mexican restaurants, and, you had your waiters who are used to seeing you. There was the touristy place, but a place that had a very real life in San Antonio called Mi Tierra, and it's still in existence, booming. And then there were just little places all over the place that were, I thought, spectacular.
Yeah. And that's, of course, that culture really has just boomed here in Manassas.
Certainly, and throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah, and we have, when I've gone to different islands in the Caribbean over the years for, vacation, stuff like that.
Right.
And if you get off of the resort or into, where the real people live, we have restaurants in Manassas now that remind me of that, like the little lunch counter restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, I don't know if it surprises me, but when I was in New York, there really weren't Puerto Rican restaurants, at least when I was a kid.
Right.
There were Puerto Rican grocery stores or bodegas, right?
Right.
Had one on my corner. But in San Antonio, if you were going for Mexican food, it was literally Mexican or Tex-Mex. Whereas here, and I love living here. We could talk about that later. But
talk about that.
Here, you don't know if you're getting Salvadorian food And so a lot of times you could tell by the thickness of the tortillas, among other.
It's really granular.
Oh yeah,
It really is. I mean, it's yeah, you're right. I mean, certainly even as recently as 10, 15 years ago,
right.
To me, they were all still just Mexican restaurants, and then suddenly it's Salvadoran or it's what? Yeah.
What's really interesting, and I knew that this would happen, is no matter what we were talking about, it would drift into food. Because that's how it is.
Yeah.
After the gym this morning, I came home and I made sausage and peppers.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw that.
Anyway, next. So I moved to Texas, and yeah.
And you were a practicing lawyer there.
Oh yeah. Well, I went to Texas, and I was waiting to get into law school in San Antonio because that's where my contacts were, and I was already far afield. I wasn't going to move away from where my friends lived.
Right.
And so, I went to law school there and then practiced there. It was very exciting. I worked for a man named Roy Barrera Sr., who's still alive. He's 97, I think. Wow. I think I went to his 95th birthday in San Antonio, or actually in the Hill Country where the ranch is.
Nice.
But it was great because he was a great trial lawyer, and I was just, immediately thrown into the courtroom. I was at the courthouse for something 4 days a week. And I don't mean delivering papers. I mean, getting yelled at by judges and
so like criminal law
things
stuff.
like a lot of criminal law. But there was, it was also a general practice. So, certainly there were a lot of divorces and things like that. But yeah, it was real strong on criminal law. Cool. We were known as a criminal law firm.
Right. And then you moved up to, I guess you went to work in Washington. You didn't move directly to Manassas when you came here.
No. What I did was, I felt that, let me tell you, when you're in a general practice that has clients, when I say you're busy, I mean you're really running
busy.
Around.
Right.
And I felt that the future of law practice, at least for me, would be better to, in some way, specialize. And I think the best way to specialize is to move to Washington. I had an opportunity to come to Washington in '77 because someone who had been in the firm, but before I was left, was appointed to a position by President Carter. And he was looking to have someone on the staff, a lawyer on the staff there who would actually practice law. I just, knew how to get yelled at and just, was happy with some action. And so I had an opportunity to come up. I had, it actually had to do with renegotiation of government contracts. That function doesn't exist anymore, but it was my opportunity to come to Washington. And I treated it in my mind, and factually it was, as simply the door to Washington. Then once you're here, then you see what happens. And then when that agency closed, I had a choice of doing banking or energy. And to me, in my young mind, banking meant moving back, doing New York work, and energy meant doing something to do with energy, which was Texas. So although I was in Washington, I was paving a way to go back.
Right.
And I ended up, I had some good jobs there, two of which were being the counsel for the chairman of a federal agency, two chairmen in a row. That was pretty cool.
That's pretty neat.
Was under Reagan. And then in '88, I'm leaving out things that don't really matter. In '88, I had an opportunity to go back to Texas and then practiced energy law. So by that time, I had practiced energy law for about 10 years in Washington. Then I went to Texas and practiced energy law we had oil, gas, liquid, like propane.
LPG, yeah.
We had production in a lot of states. We had maybe 9,000 miles of pipeline.
Damn.
It was cool. And we also started an electricity marketer. So when the Koch brothers...
I remember that.
You remember them?
I remember that.
A lot of people remember
that.
Yeah,
I bet they do.
When they bought our company, we were all out. So it was like, all right, except for the guys who turned the, valves.
Right.
You can't get rid of them.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so I had then an opportunity to come back to Washington, which was what brought me to Manassas, and I was doing the regulatory work for the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association.
Right.
Which, plug, right? Even though I'm retired, I love those guys. Represents the national interests of over 900 consumer-owned electric cooperatives in 48 states, serving about 42 million customers.
Yeah, I learned a lot more about the electric business than I wanted to when I was in office.
Well, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So you've been retired a couple of years now from those guys, and everyone knows you cook, right? But how do you feel about living in Manassas?
Well, when I first moved here, I chose to go where the job was, which, it was in close, right?
Right.
But I also choose to move where I could afford to live.
Right.
And we wanted an older kind of house, which is what we got, 1904 Grant Avenue, right?
Yeah.
And, but when I moved here, it's not that I disliked it. It was just, I wasn't choosing to come back to Washington. But over time, I don't think I've lived in a place that ever made me happier because, my church, that's Trinity Church, that's just, 2 blocks away. And, we have the cattlemen that have coffee Saturday mornings, but which you ultimately started on Friday mornings. It wasn't the cattlemen, it was you were in office and you were trying to find out, like, what should the city be doing and how should we do it, which was like real cool. And so to this day, when people talk about how the cattlemen started, I said, well, first we got to talk about the Fridays.
Right.
So, and then, now I don't want to live anywhere else. It's just, it's my community in every way.
Yeah.
And is it perfect? No place is perfect.
No.
Yeah, so I like it a lot. Most things I need, I can get here, and if I can't get it here, I probably don't need it. Plus, there's Instacart,
Instacart, Amazon, you name it.
Yeah, so many places, and I know it's changed, and because change is part of life. But Rice Hardware is not here,
Yeah.
And I know that pains. Not that the folks who came in, we don't like them, but it pains us when we lost the Rice. Because you go in there and, man, they know you, and you can joke around, you tease them and everything.
All the Rice boys were there.
Oh, it's fantastic, So it's that. But you can even get to know, if you're a crazy cook like I am, you can even get to know the people at Harris Teeter.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, when you're the person, the guy who really kind of turned me on to the idea that not all wine comes in a jug or something. I've had drank decent wine, but never really had, I guess, an appreciation of all of there's a million different kinds of wine, it seems like. And, I had drank plenty of Virginia wine before that. And there are some decent Virginia wines, but, 15 years ago, the Virginia wine industry was much, it was still kind of getting its feet under it. And a lot of that wine wasn't great.
Well, sure, but you have to start someplace.
Yeah.
But I will take issue, not with you, although that could be fun. I want to take issue with an article that was in the New York Times.
I saw that.
And I happen to like the Times. I know they have a particular slant, but I think that the writing is great, and they cover so many subjects. And the article, I think it was by Asimov, the main wine critic, and he talked about how sort of finally, certainly Virginia wine is better now than it was.
Yeah.
But he talked about Linden Vineyard. And Linden, let me tell you, they came out with something called a hardscrabble Cabernet Chardonnay. It was probably in 2000 because I bought some, and it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah?
It was, yes. It was, so they talked about it, like how much Linden has learned since then. Well, no doubt they've learned a lot, but that wine was great back then. It's not like they just started producing good stuff. And I thought since he was going to talk about Linden Vineyards, it was incumbent upon them to mention that particular wine. And so I considered it a sin by omission.
Well, it's very much. I think that the Virginia wine industry struggled to find grapes that produced great wines early on. There was a lot of Cab Franc, which is, I don't enjoy domestic Cab Franc at all. I think it's horrible. But there was some Norton, which is a native Virginia grape, which was okay, but depending on the year and the vineyard, it
well,
can be
if I can interrupt, I just don't recall. I'm sure it's happened. I just don't recall ever hearing someone go to a restaurant and the sommelier comes over and they go, "Do you have any Norton grape here?"
Right? No.
But that doesn't disparage it. It's just
it's unique in that it's the only native grape. But then you and I started meeting usually on Friday afternoons when I was walking home from work, and you bust open a bottle of Bordeaux, and my level of interest got to the point where I knew which wines and what years to buy. Because certainly before that, I never would have been like, well, that's an '04. That was a bad year in Bordeaux. I don't think it's great. I would have said, oh, it's Bordeaux. This is fantastic.
Right. So I still do. Anne doesn't drink wine anymore, and it's unusual for me to pop open a bottle by myself because it's such a thing you want to do with someone else and you go, what do you think, and all that.
Yeah.
But I have done several wine tastings.
Oh, yeah?
Just with other guys.
Sure.
The wine guys, if they're in town. I did the first one. We did, first there was, big meeting. There's only 4 people involved in it. Big meeting as to, well, what's the grape going to be and how do we do something that makes sense? Well, you don't want to, it's okay to just have fun and pick wines from different areas, but you're lacking a kind of theme. So the first one we did was 2 left bank and 2 right bank.
Oh, nice.
Wines, which I thought was cool. So, this way, 2 of them were Cabernet dominant, 2 were Merlot dominant. And then after that, we did a Cab Franc tasting from Argentina.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Italy, and the Italian one was expensive, relatively. And then some Loire. And then one was from Virginia because I thought Virginia deserved a place at the table on that. Then I did another one. What else? Okay, then the only other one was 4 wines from Burgundy.
Oh,
One the other day, 18, 05, 15, and 2020. The reasons those were picked was because 3 of the other guys, those were the only Burgundies they had from one of those years. One guy had one from 1998. Well, what made it interesting was drinking the same grape from the same country, but bookended at the very least by years, right? And the 1998 was at the extreme, especially because it was a good one, What was most pronounced? 2 things. The first one was, and I was worried if they'd be completely different from each other, but no, they each carried the so-called Burgundian theme right through it,
right.
And that's number 1. And number 2, completely different from American Pinots from Oregon or California
right.
or Washington. That's not to disparage them. It's just that so it was real interesting.
Yeah, Pinot Noir, Burgundy frequently frustrates me. It's such a cantankerous grape that you buy something and you read the reviews and I've become far more suspicious of Burgundies that are described as spare, and that is the attractive feature. I'm not partial to wines that are like that.
I don't know if I'd say that's the attractive feature. I do think it's like sort of austere.
Yeah.
But not only austere, but also delicate. It's like, from some, you can get a big tannic Bordeaux, right? But it's not it's not delicate or it's big in your face,
No.
but it's also tannic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can run into that, but what happens is the bottom line is don't even think about getting good red Burgundy for under $30.
No.
And if you do, it's fine to try it that way, but don't think like, oh, I've tried it and I don't like Burgundy, because that's not
Right.
the good stuff. Before you mentioned, or we were talking about Bordeaux and Merlot and Cabernet.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, I guess it's the 2024s for Bordeaux, the futures are being sold. It's
Right.
called Entrepreneur, or however you say it, EN, separate word, PR, whatever. And so, the prices seem pretty good. So I did some research on the vintages, the vintage.
Right.
And, Merlot gets picked several weeks before Cabernet, at least in Bordeaux.
Right.
And maybe here too.
I don't
But that's not what I was researching.
Right.
Right. So conditions are great up until the time that Merlot was picked. The Merlot grapes were picked. But I think it was heat waves, like big time heat waves, and just beat the crap. Maybe it was rain, but I'm remembering it as heat waves. And no one listening to this is going to look it up. But I invite you to if you want to. It was terrible. So I guess the bottom line is, if you want to buy a Merlot, but heavily Merlot-based one, cool. But it's not a good year, from what I gather, to be getting the high percentage Cabernet grapes in Bordeaux.
I mean, you know me. I'm left bank all the way, man.
Yeah, man.
Pauillac.
Yeah, so don't buy it this year.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, it's become... wine went through a phase in the early 2000s. It was a bit of a craze, and wine got really expensive. And I don't feel like it ever much came down from some of those highs, except for the off years.
Not in preparation for this today, because I had no idea what we would talk about.
Well, that's the whole idea behind this podcast. We just talk about
But this is real natural, right?
Yeah.
So, what did you just say? We were talking about the wines.
Pauillac. And how the prices never really...
Oh, yeah.
came down,
Actually, prices in all of France are either Bordeaux or Burgundy. I can't recall which, but the prices have been dropping.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and God knows how many reasons there are for that. But one reason, one of the things that's going on that I barely know about, but apparently that the young folks, they like mixed drinks. So the wine industry is not doing real great with. I don't know what the generation's called, because there's too many after me. But wine has never been better, on the other hand.
I agree with that.
So many different countries, you're getting really quality stuff. Although prices are high, even in Italy. I mean, you could still go to some places and get, Argentina, Chile, good places. Spain is still... reasonable.
Yeah. Well, my general observation is that when you go to France, do you need ice for that?
I'm good right now.
All right.
Thank you.
When you go to France, the vin ordinaire that is served, you can order other bottles, but sort of the restaurant wine, the red or the white, is an order of magnitude better than what we get here. Now, I'm open to the suggestion that it's because I'm drinking the wine in France, right? But I try...
You mean like the color of the glass is influencing your view?
I thought about that, though, and I think that it is... Their average wine is better than our average wine. Although the United States produces some pretty damn good wines.
Well, the United States produces great wine, but I also think that when you produce anything, you have to make money off it. Otherwise, It's called a hobby. And in some instances, a very, very, very expensive hobby. So I think that the producers in France, they're producing from what has historically been the taste in France, what people are expecting. Whereas here, we didn't start out as a wine-loving country. It's relatively new.
I'd agree with
meaning
that.
50 years, you know. So I think what the producers here do is, or it's more common for them to try to find a flavor profile that works best for American tastes, which tend to be bigger. Just bigger, where there's I don't know, using these stupid wine words, a lack of subtlety, or whereas some, as you know, American wines, I love American wines. I have a lot of them, a lot of Cabernet from California, old stuff too. But it's, it's almost, it's high alcohol.
It is.
And sometimes, unless you're doing great stuff, somewhat monolithic and lacks the, different layers.
Yeah.
But people don't have, you got to have some patience for different layers. Plus, I think you appreciate it more if you were drinking wine for a while. Not because you're drunker at the time you're drinking, but because you have, just like anything else, more experience with it.
Right. I think that really nobody does those big, bold, high alcohol California wines. No one does them better than California. The French wines have and the Vin Ordinaire maybe not, but the stuff where you're paying north of 50, 60, 80 bucks a bottle have a lot more to them.
Yeah,
they tend not to be monolithic.
I like I love California cabs. I like California Zins. Zins can top out at around 16%.
Yeah, Zins are wild.
I was talking to another buddy. I have more than one buddy.
Yeah, more than one buddy.
That doesn't make you feel
You're not allowed
bad,
to cheat on me like that, Meyer.
So I was talking to someone the other day who loves Zins, and they mentioned the 16%. It's one they love, and I respect their taste. And I got to say that because they might be listening, but
maybe someone will listen to this.
When you consider the difference between that level of alcohol and what's called a fortified wine, like port or sherry, or at least port, that's only 20%. That's a difference of 4%.
Right.
So, there's got to be some good scientific explanations as to what happens, but in any event, I don't see a big Zin as that's a chewy wine,
Yeah, I think to me, that's kind of even, I don't have a video camera here, but to me, that's even above, like, I wouldn't love that with a steak, I don't feel like. I feel like if I'm going to drink that kind of wine, I kind of want it just by itself. Maybe with some cheese and...
Well, it's because it's so big and fruity, it can do real well, I think, with something that has a lot of, salty, blue cheese. But I think it would go very well. What I think you need to do, Andy, is you need to cook up some short ribs. And I think short ribs, even with some tomato or whatever in it, just however you do short ribs, I think they'd be great with Zinfandel, especially if you do. There's some recipes, they're actually almost Middle Eastern, but in the Jewish culture, there's some portions that are, they'll have prunes when they do they'll braise a brisket with some prunes and things like that. I think that would be really cool with some Zinfandel.
Well, it's, you make a fair point. The Zin does stand up to, because if you're doing a brisket, you've got a binder on it, you've got rub on it. Rub's got a ton of salt and other stuff, and then you have at least 3 or 4 hours worth of smoke onto the meat before you wrap it. So a Zin, I'd agree. A Zin would do that.
So think about this. Think about how you like to have a fruitiness in your barbecue sauce, and Zin is the sine qua non of a fruity wine, right? It's a fruit bomb.
Though, down at the beach, my son-in-law's parents came to visit the States. They were here for several months. They're from India. And I had them down to the river, and they said they really wanted ribs. And I know they're Indian, so it's going to be pork ribs, right? And I did 4 test cooks for my recipe, so it would be perfect. And then I decided to take a little bit of a risk, and I made barbecue sauce with curry in it. And I actually hit you up for some ideas on that. And it was fantastic. And
I could see it because curry and fruit go together. So if it's a curry fruity kind of thing was and apricots.
And I used
chutney.
Apple. I had a chutney. Indians love chutney, but I had applewood and hickory that I smoked it in. So, it was. I used the 3-2-1 method. 3 hours in the smoke, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped. But I've got a stick burner down there, so I did the 3 hours on the smoker, and then I used the oven because maintaining the temperature when you're burning actual wood. And down there, the wind blows all the time. So the temperature in the smoker goes up and down. So 3 hours of smoke is enough.
I think the max that, Franklin and other people say is about 4 hours. After that's not absorbing anything. And I think, you end up having more control in the oven anyway. Yeah,
like my brother has a Traeger, and one of those pellet things, and you just tell it the temperature, and it dumps pellets in whenever it needs it. But down, you ain't going to get that in Coral Beach.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a Traeger for a year.
They're great. They're fantastic.
I ended up returning it.
Really?
Yes, and for 2 reasons, but one reason mainly. The first reason was, and I knew about it going in. And it's like, you're only cooking up to a certain temperature and that's it. So you're not grilling ever. And it's like, do I need a specialty device? Well, maybe. But the other thing was, I didn't buy the tiniest Traeger, but I didn't buy the largest Traeger. And I found that where you put the hopper, where all those pellets go in, that even though there were pellets still in the hopper, there would be like suddenly an open space where if I wasn't checking it, there were no more pellets.
They got like hung up or something.
Yeah, and it's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not, the whole thing about Traeger is put enough pellets,
set it and forget it. That's it.
Right? So, but, they make a good product, but I think, I would imagine that the largest Traegers, that's simply a non-issue. And I know that Reed, my oldest son, he's got a Traeger. Boy, that kid can cook. He's 44 now.
Wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, right. And both my boys are cooking.
Steven does?
Steven's cooking too. Yeah, he made some. They went up to Maria's house, Maria's aunt's house, and Uncle and Aunt's house in Rehoboth, I think it was. And he made some kind of cod with this and that.
Wow.
It looked good. And they also made a... I don't know if he did this or Maria did this. I'll ask him, but they did a fennel salad with it.
Nice.
That was, and they loved it. Everyone loved it. So
cod requires a little finesse too.
Huh?
Cod requires a little finesse.
Well,
I mean, it's a sturdy fish, but
it's sturdy. One of the things that surprises me, aside from dried cod, bacala.
Right.
The thing about cod is when you look up a lot of cod recipes. Now, let's say you're looking up a typical whitefish that flakes. You're not going to have a big time sauce on it. I mean, I had butter or lemon, but maybe that's it. But cod, there's a lot of recipes where you have green olives, capers, tomato, garlic, and so I think cod's great. I think it's great to just cook up some cod and throw cream on it and eat it. Just cook it in the cream.
I do cod sometimes in papillote,
right?
In paper and that.
So when you do that, do you use a newspaper or do you use parchment?
Parchment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always worried, but I consider newspaper, but I wondered about the ink.
The thing is, Andy. You're still young, and how old are you? Is that
I'll be 59 this month.
Right. So let's assume that you don't think you're going to get pregnant.
No, I don't think
I think
so.
it's okay to wrap it in newsprint. I really do.
Well, the other thing is that I use some white wine in the package to steam it. So I don't know. I'm open to it. No, at this point, I don't feel like that little bit of newsprint is going to poison me or something.
Well, but you know what? In all truthfulness, I'd use parchment paper too.
Yeah.
I think it's important when you use a white wine with it to do something that's unoaked.
Mm-hmm.
I think oaky wines are great. I like them, but for cooking, I think it's best if they're unoaked, unless
It's cleaner.
Yes, but if you're doing something that's grilling over an open fire, where you're getting smoke anyway, then an oak wine can complement.
Yeah, I mean, I admit that I know I assume that they're out of fashion now, but I admit to liking, a giant shard that's oaked and smoky and all that crap.
Well, it won't be smoky, but it'll be buttery. The
Buttery. That's right.
the malolactic fermentation you're referring to.
I love that stuff.
I think is a secondary fermentation.
I don't know. I feel like wine people, if anybody listens to this, they would be like, well, Harrover's disqualified.
Right.
Because you only drink shard that's been fermented in steel and all that. I love that other stuff. I think it's fantastic.
So when we were going wine crazy together, although you three guys didn't get together, I had three wine maniac friends back in the old days. Well, I'd say three. Well, you and my friend Jim McGrory, although we just never got together, but there was no reason why we did.
Well, we did once or twice, but it was by accident.
Yeah. And then also, of course, Scott Albrecht. But at your peak,
I think he still has a bottle of wine that all three of us bought together.
let me. It's better than that. I have good news.
Yeah,
I have the bottle of wine.
Oh yeah,
that the three. It's a 1970 Taylor Fladgate vintage port. That's what it is.
Do we have to wait for him to try this, or
not unless he's listening to this podcast? But how? At what point? I know that you keep a bunch of bottles that are just ready on hand. Now, I say I'm sure some of them are good, but that's what you're doing now. But in the old days when we went crazy, how many bottles were you up to? Because you had some good Bordeaux.
I had some great Bordeaux. Yeah, I did. I was up to around 400 bottles. I mean, it's enough. I had like a database and the little paper thing that hangs around the neck that you put numbers on.
Yeah.
And now what I have is basically two kinds of wine. I've got about a dozen bottles of wine that we can just pull out of the rack. If someone stops by and they want a bottle of wine, we can do that. And then I've got probably a dozen serious bottles that don't much get hit because I'm only going to drink those with people that are pretty serious about their wines. And then I have 4 bottles of port from 1997. Because that's when my daughter's
year.
Yeah.
I think I gave you one of those
You
bottles.
did give me one of those. And then I've got about a dozen bottles of Sauterne.
Sure.
That I can't... Most people don't like Sauternes.
Well, first, do you know where you got them? Did you buy them from Total?
Some from Total and some from Arrow.
So, what I found from Total, and I always thought that Total had good prices in this, but, when I was going through it's probably a recurrent theme here. When I was going through a Sauterne craze, I was very familiar with every Sauterne vintage.
Right.
And Total Wine did a good job of having the good houses, the Sauterne houses, whatever they're called, producers, but they weren't the ideal years.
No.
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons I think people don't like Sauternes, or for the people who don't, they just don't like them. We forgive them.
We forgive them.
No.
Right.
We discount them. Right. They don't count. But I think a lot of times people have tasted an inexpensive sweet wine and decide, I don't like sweet wines. When, sipping Sauterne, a great Sauterne is like sipping liquid sun.
It really is. But it is a face full of flavor. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a face full of, yes.
So it can be hard for people that really just don't have any depth drinking wine. I get
Well,
it.
you know, I call those people not my friends. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
It's a little less approachable than like, if you get a port, I feel like people are more familiar with that flavor profile. But then if you put some decent cheese and crackers out with it, it's totally approachable.
Yes.
Because it changes everything.
Right.
But Sauterne, and it's hard to describe, right? It's almondy flavored. Well, kind of, if you're looking to pick it out.
People are shocked by how sweet it is.
They are.
And as you were sort of referencing before, I think it's what you have to achieve in it is, because it's so sweet, you have to have an equivalent amount of acidity.
Yeah.
And, otherwise, it's out of balance, and then it sucks. It's like drinking Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I bought a bottle from a chateau. I'll call it Siduriat. I'm not sure.
Suderet, yeah.
Yeah. And
yes.
That wine is it's from the early 2000s. It's gotten really dark.
Yeah, but that's okay. Do you remember the year? Was it? It could have been 2003,
3, 4, or 5 for
right.
sure.
2005 was a real good year.
Yeah.
2003, it was very hot in France, and a lot of people died. But as a result of that, that's a very early drinking vintage.
Yeah.
It's not that it won't last, but it matured very fast.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't opened it, but it's noticeably darker. I think it's the only bottle I have from that chateau. But the other bottles that I have, it's noticeably darker than all of them. Oh. So I don't know. Maybe it's gone bad. I kind of doubt that because it has lost so much.
I wouldn't think it's gone bad.
Nah.
So in terms of like food and cooking, I'll tell you, I find myself just enjoying this really large cast iron pan that I have. I may have told you about it. So most cast iron pans, if someone refers to a large cast iron pan, they're referring to a 12.5-inch or 12-inch cast iron pan, the typical Loge pan, which is great. It's a great pan. Well, let me tell you, a 15-inch pan, it sounds like it's 3 inches bigger, and you know why? Because it is. Well, yeah. But aside from that, when you calculate out the area,
it's far
man, you could put a lot more stuff in there, and you can really hit stuff with heat and all. Like, you buy a package of chicken thighs, and by the time you open them up, unless you're not going to cook them folded up unless you're going to bake them. So you open them up, and it's almost, depending on how many, it's sometimes too big for that 12-inch pan, but that 15-inch pan.
I'll second that, because when you run into a recipe that says like cook the chicken thighs in batches, I hate that, because by the time the last batch is done, the first batch is cooled down, and maybe it's kind of oily now, and it's got to go back into it. I like cooking them all at once.
Well, I don't like it when they say that, because I don't like people telling me what to
do. Bastards.
But I find myself cooking with that large, unwieldy, heavy cast iron pan once a week. I did that this morning with the sausage and peppers.
Right.
Because it was 5 sausages and 2 red bell peppers and a giant sweet onion. Man, it was good. I mean, there's still more left.
Right.
I feel, I should have brought some over.
Well, this is the first time we're doing this, and we'll see what happens.
Well, are we supposed to talk about something else?
We can talk whatever the hell we want. I mean, I'm open for anything. We could talk about city stuff. We could talk about national stuff.
I think what I'd like to talk about is, and it's really easy to talk about Supreme Court cases and all these other things that people are either very aware of or barely aware of. But I just wish people would be nicer to each other. Now, that sounds like, can I curse?
Yeah.
It's like, Rich, take off, put on some men's underwear. but people are so shitty to each other, especially on Facebook and social communication. Stuff that
it's horrible.
You wouldn't say to someone to their face, although maybe I would, and maybe you would.
Yeah.
In fact, I recall what you have. but I just want people to be nicer to each other. over Trinity Church, I curse and I drink and a lot worse things. But, I go to Bible study. I went to Bible study today. Anyway, last week in Bible study, reading Luke, and everyone's familiar with, judge not lest you be judged, and all this. And everyone says, yeah, that's right. But the other one is like, remove the log from your own eye before you remove the splinter from someone else's. And, we're also, damn,
Sounds like you were paying attention to Bible study to me.
Well, I want to get an A, because, I bring an apple to the class.
Right.
But I just think, man, we judge and we judge so harshly. And even with local politicians, look, I know they make mistakes and they do things for political reasons. Right. What a shock. But, these are just local citizens. You don't do this for the money. In general, you don't do this for the money.
No.
And so, I just wish, instead of people calling them morons, like, I don't know what they're drinking these days, but just, you don't have to say you like something if you don't, but don't be an asshole about it. Try not to embarrass other people. Or as there was this woman who was once honored it was called Women in Energy, and boy, she was great. A woman named Sue Kelly, great lawyer, great lawyer. I learned a lot from her. And she said, her rules for younger lawyers. And one was, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
And in general, there's two ways of saying it. Love your neighbor or don't be a jerk. Either one, that's good enough for me. But I just wish it would be nicer.
Well, I guess it's about a month and a half ago, I was invited to a prayer breakfast organized by members of the community. And, I wasn't sure, like, who was going to be there or what are we talking about exactly? And I went, and it wasn't a lot of proselytizing. It wasn't that really, right? It was more just talking about life experiences and stuff like that. Probably, it was over at City Tavern, so just set it down. It's fine, brother. We're drinking a little bit of Green River Wheated Bourbon. So,
Andy, could you get me a large ice cube, please?
I only have small ice cubes,
Okay,
but
I'll take one. I'll take two then.
So let me just tell you this: so they had like a guy who shared his story and his faith journey and stuff like that, and that was super cool. And then they had at each table a list of discussion topics for the table to talk about, and then talk to at the end kind of summarize. The question from my table was, what do you worry about? And the guys at my table, I can tell you, there were guys that were hardcore Republicans, Trump supporters till the end. There were guys like me who are more like, businessman conservative. I'm far more worried about, the federal deficit and things like that, and making it easy for people to live. And there were guys who were, I would call them generally center left. And to a person, the thing that these guys worried about was the temperature in politics and national politics. I mean, unprompted, everyone wrote down almost the same thing. And so I think that goes to your point about, like, don't be a jerk about it, right?
Well, I think that politics certainly reflects society.
Yeah.
And the divisions are so great, what TV you on, and you can frequently tell on the basis of what people are talking about, what symbols they speak in, and
even
it's
with
just
the sound off.
Yeah, I mean, you could just sort of tell, and I think with our cattlemen group, and as we all know, it's not an official organization, etc. But it's how do you see through those things that are difficult to see through, and just say, look, I just want to see this other person's heart. I just want to see their honesty.
Yeah, well, and we should note that, like in the cattlemen, there's a large diversity of opinion. We even have guys that
there's a lot of people who are wrong.
That's exactly right.
No, you're right. Of course.
But we even have people that grew up in foreign countries and have very different opinions on things than Americans do. And
well, then some Americans.
Well, yeah, but so that's pretty interesting stuff. That you're right. That's a different group, but it's just interesting that those people all said pretty much the same thing. And even when I talk to, we have a house down in Colonial Beach, so we spend some amount of time down there in the Northern Neck, and it's far more rural, and those districts go overwhelmingly red. But when I talk to like my buddy Larry in the gym down there, he says, "Look, I don't really care for Donald Trump the way he conducts himself, but the stuff he's talking about." Spending and the open, but he says he's not wrong about any of that stuff. I hear that a lot.
No doubt you hear that a lot. Look, half the country, well, more than half, I guess, but I think it's okay to say half.
Yeah.
Half the country voted for him, and they meant it. This was not like, who should I vote for?
Right.
It's like, they weren't going to vote D. There were things about the Democratic Party where they felt put upon, where they felt that they were de facto being called racist. And to them, it's like, I'm not a racist, but I got that. I got it. And, and so I was talking to a buddy yesterday, someone good friend, and he says, look, Rich, I get up every morning and I'm happy. It's a new day in America. Well, I'm less happy than he is. but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a right to be happy. I mean,
sure.
They elected this guy or America elected this guy. That's the fact. And I agree with, you hear this all the time. I agree with some policies. I disagree with others. In general, I definitely disagree with how he goes about doing certain things, but his base loves it. And in terms of, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people, get into the law thing. If he were elected as a change agent, shouldn't you test the boundaries? I don't mean to be an asshole,
right?
But shouldn't you test the boundaries? If you feel the executive does not have enough power, you should test the boundaries of executive power. Now, I will, mention that how the Republicans were aghast that a Democrat would ever think to test the boundaries of executive power. But there's a lot of happiness right now, but that's okay. I never look for intellectual honesty in anything,
right,
except amongst my friends.
Yeah.
But I think it's absolutely within his right to test the constitutional boundaries, but he has to abide by what the courts say.
Right.
Now, do I like that he's calling the judges assholes and, all the other stuff? No, I don't like it. Is he allowed to? Sure.
Sure.
But that's where I don't.
Yeah.
Because I think his view of a good decision is one that supports what I want. But I think a lot of people feel that way. So sure. I can't fault that. Well, I can fault it, but whatever. I understand it.
There was an interesting thing I read about how about deal making and negotiating strategies and stuff like that. And it was probably in the New York Times. The writing in the Times is fantastic as long as you approach it with the understanding of what their viewpoint is, right? Mm-hmm. But on any given day, I read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Washington Post, and a couple others. But the article talked about, it was an analysis of how Trump makes deals, right? And literally, there's two kinds of outcomes from deals. There's win or loser, and I won this negotiation and you lost. and there's one where it's like everybody gets a little bit of what they
Win-win.
want. Right. And Trump is so hardwired for win-lose that it sometimes hamstrings him and his deal making.
Well, I would say that, yeah, he needs to come out on top, but it's okay to understand that, and that's him.
Yeah.
But if you're going to only negotiate one time in your life with somebody, you can fuck them in negotiation, as they can hate you and you're never going to negotiate with them again.
Doesn't matter.
But if you're in a context that requires a continuing relationship,
right,
but with the country, then how do they know someone else is not going to walk away from a deal? So I think that's a basic negotiation standpoint in terms of follow up. Do you need to preserve a relationship or not? Well, if you don't need, that's a big one right there.
Well, it is, and especially like on the international stage, it's not just like me trying to negotiate a deal with you. It's like me trying to negotiate a deal with you, understanding you're talking to 30 other parties.
And everyone else is watching what's going on.
That's right.
I mean, sure.
And they have varying interests. They may not think that like a deal between the United States and somebody is in their interest.
Right. It's very three-dimensional.
Yeah.
You have to consider everything.
Yeah.
There's when you're dealing with even national issues, but especially international issues.
Yeah.
We're not talking about bilateral interests. We're talking about multilateral interests.
Right. 30 lateral.
Right. Oh. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, though, I do feel like you're right. He was hired to push the boundaries. He made no bones about what he was going to do. But I do think sometimes he's his own worst enemy with this tariff stuff. It's become, the stuff with like China, right? I mean, that's just when the Wall Street Journal is writing articles about like the bond market is going to blow up if you don't stop screwing around, because their editorial board is pretty conservative.
It's very conservative. They hated Biden.
You're off the map there.
Right.
And I think he realized it almost too late. His Secretary of Treasury, I feel like, pulled him back.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the things that's pulling him back is the decision by the International Court of Trade, or whatever it is, which was set up by Congress, by the way.
Right.
People are like, well, that's some court in New York. No, it's not a New York court. It was set up by Congress, et cetera. I think it's what's called an Article 3 court. That's now that didn't kill all tariffs, just certain tariffs. There's some tariffs that fall outside of it. I think steel, perhaps. Yeah. I'm not sure what else. Look, has the country gone too far in some ways? I mean, pre-Trump, yeah. And did I like government rules that said, for me to bid out certain things, I had to have. Well, I just think it should be who put forth the best bid. I do think, and won't walk away from, I think that a number of remedial efforts were needed for a long time, and perhaps some are still needed. But I don't like. Well, I thought that the decision regarding Harvard, regarding the Chinese students, was a good decision. The Supreme Court decision. But look, it's a tough time, and
it's a tough time, and I don't feel like, and I don't have by any means a comprehensive picture of this, but.
Right.
Americans that I talk to, the vast majority, 75%, agree with the idea. Look, someone needs to go through and look at this stuff. USAID. Mm-hmm. I don't want to start children, right? But some of the stuff that came up, and I did some legwork to verify it, right, was ridiculous. And Stuff like that, or looking at spending. Do we have too many employees? The last person that did that was Bill Clinton. And he got rid of over
370,000 people.
That's right.
From 1992 to 1998.
And
that was
worked,
a 6-year period.
And he worked with Congress to do it.
Right. He also worked with the agencies to do it.
Right.
He said, you guys figure out a way. I remember that. It was called FERC First at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Jim Hecker was the chairman. Well, first Betsy Moeller and then Jim Hecker. And we talked about it at that time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The
people don't disagree with that. They don't. I mean, the method that he did it, just like, anybody who's probationary, gone. You lose. I ran into a gal here in Manassas who she's an AI expert.
Right.
Took the early buyout and is using that continued paycheck as her runway to start her own consulting practice. I mean, I would argue those are the kind of people you actually want in government, right? You don't want them wandering around. Guys like that, gal like in this case, smart people we need.
I think all of us would agree that rather than call it bloat, I want to call it government inefficiencies. Yeah, and is there bloat? We can find bloat anywhere.
Sure.
But, so here we have a time when the president, the administration, and most of us want to promote or enable industrial growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a pretty good decision out of the Supreme Court the other day involving the National Environmental Policy Act. It was a good decision. That enables it. But in terms of energy, simply because I know it.
Right.
So you talk about pipelines. And now when a pipeline is built, it's up to a particular federal agency, FERC, again, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, to bless it. Because once they bless it, that's eminent domain and everything.
Right.
Okay? Well, even though it's eminent domain, you still have to have all these environmental reviews and all other kind of shit. Well, you're getting rid of people and you want to have the process move faster.
Right.
Well, a lot of the people you got rid of or you enabled to leave, they were your experts.
Right.
So now you want stuff to move faster with a more junior group. And it's in energy, every side has money. Every side has money. So it's not like, you got some young guy, but no one's going to pick up what he's doing. No, you have 100 lawyers on the other side trying to say why this is a bad idea. And so, those are the kinds of things that I've seen, and I don't think it was out of bad faith or anything else, but where you realize, this can't turn out good. You have a guy who really wants to get stuff built, but stuff's being done a bit too much with a meat cleaver.
Yeah.
But that's his strength, I guess, for his supporters. He wants to go at stuff with a meat cleaver. I mean, that's what they want. And I can understand that.
Yeah,
and appreciate it.
100%. I mean, I think a lot of the people, more centrist people, are like, I think this is an okay idea, but I sure do wish we were a little bit more judicious about it. But failing that, they're willing to put up with it. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that's my read on the people. Because Northern Virginia's pretty blue. You get down into King George County, Westmoreland County, those are red districts. And even those guys, I've folks I talked to at one of the breweries down there, they're conservative people. And they say the same thing. It's like, well, I wish there was a little more order to it, but I'm good with it. So that's where I think a lot of people are. I think you're right. And
but they're good with it because they're unfamiliar with a lot of those people are unfamiliar with the nuances. People want this new bill to pass. Now a lot of Congress people on the R side are saying, "Well, I didn't know what was in it." Well, fuck you. What kind of shit is that? You voted for it. You didn't know what was in it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have voted for it if you didn't. So,
Marjorie Taylor Greene was actually transparent about the fact that she did not read the bill but voted for
I
it.
think she used the word transparent in her explanation.
Yeah, which unfortunately she failed at her
poking.
job. She has one job: read the bills, vote on them.
Well, you know what? If the bill comes out and you got to have the vote out within 24 hours, you're not reading 1,000 pages, because you know what? I've read a lot of legislation, and unless you know everything, there's no way you even know what it's doing.
It's a deep hole. It is.
Oh, it's so difficult.
Plus, I mean, I feel like most Americans, including me, don't really appreciate the environment on Capitol Hill. You know, that I did the Manassas City Council, right?
Right.
And so I would get a call from a constituent or, a fellow council member who wanted to do things. And I mean, you know much better than me. On Capitol Hill, you've got the GOP whip calling you like, look, we need your vote. And by the way, if you don't help us out here, maybe you don't get reappointed to the energy subcommittee or whatever it is, right? And you're from Oklahoma. You have to be on the energy subcommittee.
Right. Amen.
So, they have a whole lot more pressure points.
Well, let's see. There was, I mean, what you're saying is just true.
Yeah.
It's a real tough situation for a lot of those people.
It is. What do you think about, if anything, what do you think about what's going on in Manassas?
Well, one of the things that seems to have gotten a lot of attention is where the motel used to be, and now at the present time it's a parking lot. I mean, may as well use it for something. For me, I know there's a lot of views on it. I didn't want that motel there, and the sooner it could come down, just from a personal standpoint, I was happy with it. And, since there were efforts in the past, from what I understand, and they didn't bear fruit. So for me, the fruit that I wanted it to bear is it no longer existed. So I'm happy with that fruit. Could there be more planning? Certainly. But, it's not like those people are allowed to talk to each other. You got government, the Sunshine Act, or whatever it's called in Virginia, and I'm just glad it's down. I'm glad we saved Annenberg Manor. For me, that was a big symbolic save. A lot of people, I guess some people disagree. Yeah, we still don't want doing it. Okay, that's all right. It didn't get torn down. I would have been difficult for me to accept another historic thing, whatever that means, being torn down. The shopping center, yeah, that's more money. I gather we were able to use some federal money for that. Some external money. I just don't know.
I think there was maybe some COVID money or something tied up in that.
Yeah, whatever it is, federal money. Didn't come from the state. I like it. I way prefer the private sector to do something. But sometimes the private sector doesn't, and it's okay, but they just need a little help. And so by having the city buy it, the city can, it wasn't the city buying it completely. You had other things going on.
Economic.
But I understand a lot of people are unhappy about it, and I wouldn't say it's a majority, but people I like and respect. I don't know if they wouldn't do it, but they certainly are. They toss a lot of things in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think so when I was on council and subsequent to that, a lot of people talked about how visionary were previous councils because they bought all that land out there by the airport. And, they bought the airport land and Lake Manassas. And, at the time, I wasn't alive, so I don't have any idea how controversial it was. But, Lake Manassas has been central to some of our success. We control our own water supply, right?
No industrial water goes into our water supply.
Right.
Unlike Fairfax and other places,
that's right,
where they get half the water from the Potomac and the other half of the water from the Occoquan, which is where our waste goes after it goes through UOSA.
Right.
Upper Occoquan Service Authority, $37 million of toilet flushing and everything else a day.
Yeah.
So we don't drink that shit.
Okay.
It's not shit. You can actually drink the stuff that comes out of Ewosa.
Oh, yeah.
You really can. But because of Lake Manassas, we don't have to.
Right.
I like that.
But, you know, that was always kind of like the debate, right?
Right.
And when it comes to, I know there's been a lot of heat around buying the Old Town Inn. We overpaid, like, you know, the property is worth $2 million and we paid $5 million or whatever the numbers are. But, you know, we had, if we were going to buy the property, we had to buy the business. And that's why it didn't happen when I was in office, because the guy said, you know, look, this business nets me whatever it is, and I think a fair value is this. And what has happened subsequent to that is people are like, well, the dirt was only worth $2 million and we paid $6 million. Well, we had to buy the business to get the dirt. And I get it completely.
The bottom line is, do you want to buy it or don't you? And what's the market value? And we paid the market value.
Right.
The market value is what it sells for.
Right. I feel like we should have been much further along. And I know these deals sometimes they're a target of opportunity, right? Maybe that guy decides, you know, this Friday, I'm tired of being in the damn motel business. I'm tired of having to clean rooms or whatever. Hey, City of Manassas, I want to sell this thing. I get it completely. But I think that the city has not been entirely transparent with, like, how far along some of their negotiations are. And then to go and spend another $100,000 to turn into a parking lot, it frustrates people. And I totally get that. It's a net positive for the city to own it. And in fact, you know, everyone, like, we have to make money on this investment. I don't know, when I sit over at Ground Central like I did yesterday and have a sandwich, I look at it and I thought, damn, that would be nice if it was all grass. Maybe some bushes.
You know,
in
everyone
the middle.
emotionally, aesthetically, we certainly all feel that way. But we want it to be, I think we want it to be, well, that's a question. Do we want it to be a money-making thing or not?
It's got to be.
I think it needs to be.
It's got to be money.
Our grassy area is in front of the museum.
Yeah, that's the front lawn of the city.
That's it. That's right. That's right.
I mean, the Mathis Avenue thing.
Well, before we get to there, I'm real glad that Manassas Ice and Fuel, that the city and them reached a deal.
Yeah.
I'm real happy about that, because if you're going to deal with, you know, these large plots of land downtown, let's just do it in sort of some kind of a way that, you know, you can think about things together, and not this plot and then that plot and then, you know.
Well, I mean, it's clear, at least to me, that the city's going to have to spend a substantial amount of money to build a parking deck on there to enable that hotel development on the Old Town Inn space to be successful. That's a hell of a lot of money the citizens are going to have to spend.
Well, you put it that way. I can't say I thought about that. Well, I could say I thought about that, but, you know, I really didn't. Right. So if there's a parking garage there, and if it's done mainly for the hotel, but if you're doing it to increase the value of a piece of property in the center of your city, isn't that a good idea?
I think what the city is telling us is that they need a parking deck because they employee parking is taking up the current surface lot, and there's no parking for citizens. And so let's just go up 2 or 3 floors and also provide parking for the hotel development.
And there might be some retail there or something else.
And and I mean, might not be wrong, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yes.
The Mathis Avenue thing, we bought it, and, you know, the last plan for Mathis Avenue was a part of what they called the sector plans for the city.
Right.
And the sector plan for Mathis Avenue is wild. It envisions several floors, you know, like apartment buildings and stuff like this. And I don't know how you jive that. I mean, traffic over there is horrific. And, you know, if you have to go down Liberia in the afternoons, and even Route 28, I'm Mathis, and I don't, traffic circles ain't going to fix it. I don't know how you get.
Let me tell you something. It's a lot easier to drive here during those hours than it is to drive in Old Town Alexandria.
I get that, but residents are certainly right to be concerned about it, right?
100%. Yeah.
And traffic circles. I mean, I like to make fun of the traffic circle that they built. It's horrible. And the way they did that part of Grant, the part of Grant they're trying to mirror is the part, where you and I live. And if you had to, like, you can pass a car on our part of Grant.
Right, not there.
Down there, I mean, what happens if you're driving, your sedan and an emergency vehicle comes up behind you? You've got to drive up over the curb onto the sidewalk.
Yeah, I had a discussion about that with someone the other day, and I think that's, I drive that twice a day because I go to the gym straight down Grant and back. And I like the traffic circle.
Yeah.
Some people don't. I like it. But the single lane,
it's a problem.
I guess. But, yeah, I guess it depends on where the emergency vehicle is coming from. But since, at least at the moment, there's that fire station on whatever it's called, Dumfries Road or South Grant, Dumfries Road. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Those guys don't go down that part of Grant. They hang a right at that CVS and then take a left down Main Street.
By the CVS?
Yeah.
You mean Walgreens?
Walgreens. Is that what it is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go down Main?
Because it's just faster and there's more space to maneuver. Of course, though, they've got like 100 and some houses being built on that part.
Oh, yeah. And, they're really coming up. I don't know if you've been there for the last couple of days. I have.
They were doing concrete and utility work for a long time, but I noticed in the last week or two that
there's framing up.
Right.
There's one that's, I'd say, almost completely framed already.
Oh, really?
Not with external cladding, but completely.
I've noticed that they were starting to drag in the framing parts,
and they don't seem to have basements, which is fine.
Yeah,
but, then they go up like 3 or with dormers, 4 stories. Gracias.
All right. What do you think of this Green River?
I'm pretty happy, man.
Yeah, I like it. It's weeded bourbon, which I like bourbon and I drink different kinds of it, but I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert at weeded bourbon.
So years ago, we had this bottle. We had a couple of bottles of it.
That's good.
It was there's that 50% rule, or what is it? Bourbon. I mean, corn and rye, or what?
Right.
So there was something that was heavily rye? You kind of really dug it.
Oh, is that Magnus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So does that sort of reflect this in terms of or is it completely different?
I think it's different. I'll tell you my favorite whiskey currently is it is what it is, brother. Is a Woodford, and it is a malted whiskey, and it has a blue tack strap on top of it. The other ones are brown. It's fantastic. I feel like I can taste the corn and the other ingredients, and it's nothing special. It's $35 a bottle or whatever. It's fantastic.
What's the name?
It's a Woodford, but it's a malted whiskey, I think is what they call it.
I mean, I frequently buy Woodford, but I don't think I'm familiar with this.
It had on the ABC store, Manassas had it, and the other ones have the brown thing. This one is blue.
So we're back on booze, aren't we?
Well, I mean, we kind of been pinging around a little bit, but it's what we know.
I think we need to split a bottle of Magnus one of these days.
Sure.
Just to sort of see, like, what was it? Do we still like it?
Yeah.
And what was the deal?
Yeah.
But
so, other than the sausage and peppers this morning, what are you cooking?
Oh man, I cooked 2 things this past week. One was on Friday. I guess it was Friday. Yeah, Friday. I bought a puff. We used puff pastry,
right,
with Gruyere and mushrooms. And it was great. It was great. It was just great.
Nice.
If you want to do puff pastry, you are not going to make your own. Under no circumstances will you do that. But when you do go to the store, they have several different puff pastries, and the one to buy is Dufour, Dufour, because that puff pastry is made with butter, whereas Pillsbury, which is surprisingly good, is just made with some kind of oil.
Shortening. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, it's not shit, but it's not like Dufour. So I made that, and then on Sunday I made there's something called a strata, but it's, you know, may as well be a casserole.
Right.
You know, day-old bread, this, that, and you want to use a heavier bread, like an Italian bread,
Right.
versus something that turns gummy and
Right.
disintegrates. But I did that with, what did I do it with? Chorizo and poblano peppers that I roasted.
Oh,
A
nice.
bunch of other stuff. The next time I do it, I think I'm going to do it with Italian. I'll do more Italian one. Sweet sausage, Italian sweet sausage, some spinach. Could use Swiss chard, but probably spinach. And then just whatever else. I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
What I do want, I got two, so I could say, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't think two melanzone. Anyway, two eggplants at home.
Oh.
And so I want to, I mean, I always make fried eggplant and stuff. I like it. But I want to do one Italian pickled eggplant. Okay? You know, you chop it up, you skin it, and do all this
Right.
stuff, do, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I really want to do that. And then, so that's the pickled eggplant. And then separately, I want to do a marinated eggplant, which is a different thing. The marinated eggplant is grilled first, or, you know, hit it in cast iron.
Right.
But then you do other stuff. The marinated, the pickled eggplant is not cooked. It's salted for like 12 hours, pressed, and then, you know, vinegar, etc.
Dry it out some. Press to dry it out.
Pressed to get some bitterness out, but to dry it out, to get
Right.
that excess liquid, which is like really brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really disgusting. Like, you know how you see recipes and they go, do this, like if you're making ricotta, but then they go, save the way to do something else.
Right.
No one says that about the shit that comes out of that comes out of the eggplant. It's like they don't even say throw it out.
Right.
They just don't say
They just
anything.
talk about it.
Right. You know, I think that's guilt that propels them to, you know, leave that sin of omission. Anyway, yeah. So look, cooking's great. The wine thing's great. The friendship thing's great. The gym's going real well. Church is good. Anne's fine. You know, she's hanging in. You know, life beat her up in a couple of ways, but she's doing well, and we love each other. And you know, and I'll tell you, when I retired, I really two things about retirement. Well, at least about mine. Number one, I was involved with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you were.
And I am now, but I didn't want to go into retirement with a bunch of momentum. I wanted to go into it in the spring. I wanted to retire in the spring, not the winter.
Yes, I remember you were very intentional about how you did this.
I want to retire when things are blooming.
Right.
You know, there's naked nymphs running about my backyard. You know, it's great. No one sees them except me.
That's all that matters.
But you know, so you know, when you retire is good, but not. It's so easy to get yourself busy, and then you're in retirement, a time when you could actually relax, and you just that momentum is just keeping you doing the same shit, and your head's in the same place.
Right.
So I went into it with sort of a tabula rasa, and then I just added some other things. One was church several times a week, which I enjoy. And then I, you know, got on two boards having to do with like utilities or whatever, because I felt that'd be interesting, but I also knew I could give something back.
Well, yeah.
But you know, I'd say the biggest thing about retirement, if you can let yourself do it, is to enjoy it. I think it's very difficult for people to just be what's the word? Meaningful? What's that the word? You know, it's just like, you know, you're just enjoying stuff that's like right in front of you. Like
Right.
You're cooking it or some stupid flower in the yard.
Right.
And no, I've not reached the. Oh yes, thank you, Andy, for recognizing my Zen-like existence. But no, it's not like that. You know, it's at all. But it's good if you can just allow yourself to enjoy the sun on your back.
I mean, I'll say this: you are super. So, my dad retired after 30 some odd years with the federal government, Department of the Army, and so it's really only like you're probably the only other dude in my sphere who has retired. Like, I mean, probably some of the guys, like maybe Bill is retired or something like that, but. And some of our lawyer and doctor buddies have retired, and those are pretty well known. And when my dad retired, his big concern was like, I'm going to retire and I'm going to die, because that was his experience. He had lots of guys. His group in the Department of the Army, they did physical security, so he had worked with these guys for 20-some years. And the first one of them retired, and he was gone within a year. And, that gets inside your head, right? And so Dad, within months of retiring, Mom and Dad started the bed and breakfast. And suddenly, he went from a guy who was developing security solutions for the Army all over the world to saying, what time do you want me to cook breakfast for you? And it really did sort of keep him going, right? I feel like what you did, the way you went about it was very different, but it achieved the same end.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't want to stay busy to be happy. I just want to figure out, what is, to the extent that anyone knows, like, what's happiness?
Right.
What does it take?
But you had a mission. You were going to do this your way.
Well, I was going to think about it, and I think that any time in your life you go through a major life change, and certainly retirement is.
Absolutely.
I think a little bit of, I'll call it coaching as opposed to therapy. I think coaching's good. Now, I will say about 6 months before I retired, I called a couple of coaches.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, look, I just I don't want to wake up 6 months after I retire and say, why didn't I think about this? Or, what do I want out of life? But everyone was booked because of COVID and all this other bullshit.
Right.
Not bullshit, but, everyone was booked. So I ended up not doing it. Well, I'm real glad how it turned out. But I really do feel that when people make, big decisions like retirement, because that's a major thing.
That's huge.
Because, when you retire, suddenly you realize a lot of things, like this is nice and blah, blah, blah. But it's very disorienting. And you also realize that, well, I guess this is what's happening until I die. But I'll tell you what, I could do this the next 20 years if I'm lucky. Having friends and being on podcasts for the first time.
Right. Well, I think you're right. I've never retired, but I do feel like if you go into it with that mindset, because, the day you're going to retire is like Friday, right? And, on Friday, you're the man. And on Monday, you're sitting on your porch.
Oh, there's no emails, man.
Right.
There's no email.
Right.
All those important opinions you had.
Right.
No one wants them.
And the world keeps going.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it hasn't slowed down at all.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what? But at the same time, if you've been running an organization or in charge of a group or whatever, it's like the fact that they're not calling me means things are working. Mm-hmm. Which is what usually happens in any event,
Yeah, in my circle, sort of like retirement is not much of an option. Like I could sell my business, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like retiring because then, Monday comes and, maybe I get a couple of email inquiries from staff about how are we going to treat this? But I feel like by Wednesday it's dried up.
See, here's what happens. If there's a new boss, they ain't calling you.
That's right.
They're going to the boss to go, so what should I do?
Right.
Well, I could call Andy. No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Well, because that's how that turf stuff is.
Yeah.
Well, look, is this where we wrap it up? What should we talk about? It's up to you, man.
Yeah, no, the only thing I was going to talk about was Back to cooking.
Yeah, sure.
I made duck confit for the first time.
So when you made it, like, okay, did you? I know you bought the kit in the past, which was a major kit from D'Artagnan or some other
I
place.
just bought the fat and the duck.
Okay, so you bought separate duck fat, which they even sell it at Teeter.
Yeah.
And then the duck that you bought, did you buy the legs or did you buy the breast?
I think it's probably closer to both.
Where did you buy it?
D'Artagnan.
Oh, well then I'm sure you got the right stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
wasn't just
Teeter,
the breast.
At Teeter, they only have the breast.
Right. It had the breast with the leg, with the thigh.
They had the thigh. They had the thigh with the leg.
All right. Whatever you say.
Either way, it's okay.
But I got to tell you, it's a quote unquote like fancy restaurant dish, but it is dead simple.
It's a country dish.
Yeah.
Much more country, and I've had it at your house where you had the beans in it.
Oh, cassoulet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what are we talking? Oh, you're just talking about the
just the duck. Yeah.
Just the duck. So what did you do with the duck?
So
because I have some thoughts about that.
Right. I mean, I did like anybody did. I Googled a bunch of stuff, and it seems like when you have like a really serious steak, you need to salt and pepper that thing at least 24 hours in advance, right? And we did the same thing with the duck. We put some other seasoning in, nothing wild, right? And, made some careful cuts across the skin. And then we followed basically a mix of the D'Artagnan directions and New York Times. Put it skin side down and just let it roll for 10 minutes, right? And then flip it over. And I don't even know if we needed to buy the duck fat because so much fat.
No. You for what you're doing, you absolutely don't need to do the duck fat. You score it,
right,
crosswise, and then, not cutting into the meat, but just going over the fat.
Right.
And then you just hit it with some heat. And on the meat side, you don't cook it that long at all. A lot of fat comes off that. So what I would do is I would take that and sort of crisp it up. I might even, after it was confit, I might even cut the meat off and sort of, what's the word? Pull it apart.
Right.
And
shred it.
I don't say quite fry it, but yeah, we'll say fry it a little bit. Put it on a salad so you have bitter greens.
Yeah.
You have some kind of cool balsamic, whatever. But then you have the duck, the duck confit that's been shredded.
Right.
And then what you do is you either, what's the word? When you take an egg and what's the most delicate thing you could do with an egg?
I mean, sunny side up, right?
No. More. You put it in the water with you poach a duck egg.
That would be
poach
fantastic.
a duck egg.
Yes.
Or sunny side, or just gently poach the duck egg in the duck fat, and then put that on top of the salad. So when you puncture the duck, the yellow, it mixes with the vinegar, and that's your dressing.
Well, so we did, skin side down until we had some good flavor. Actually, I cooked 4 of these, and I cooked 2 of them longer and 2 of them shorter. The longer ones, I felt like that's where I wanted to be after I tried them. And then you flip it over and you put it in the oven and let it roast for a little while. And it was fantastic. We used most of the duck fat for the roasted potatoes. Roasted potatoes in duck fat is incredible.
Oh, I love them. So sometimes
salt on them.
So did you boil the potatoes a little bit first?
Yeah.
You boil them, and then I like to smash them and then put them in the duck fat.
Smash
I like
them,
to put
cut
some
them in half.
rosemary with that too.
It's fantastic.
Fresh. Yes.
The other thing I did, and I have not used this yet, so when I ordered the duck fat from D'Artagnan, something kind of went crazy with.
Excuse me, I just want to say that the duck fat in my house, it's from the duck I cooked. All right, so just go ahead.
So
Please.
I didn't realize how much fat that duck would yield. Otherwise, I would have used it. But I also did, so when I ordered the duck fat from D'Artagnan, I got 10 containers of it. I'm not sure why.
You spend like $100?
I don't know how much it was. Most of it's in the freezer now. But So I had a bunch of garlic, and I had some smaller tomatoes fresh smaller tomatoes that are from, we have a hydroponic garden kind of thing in our house. And I think that was it. And I sort of confit those in that duck fat. And
Oh, sure. Well, garlic confit is a big deal. But to do it in duck fat, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then some shallots. We had some shallots in it.
Whole shallots.
And I've cooked those. I just simmered them slowly in duck fat.
Yeah, real low temp.
Yeah, I still
Little
have.
bubbles.
So when I was done with that, I peeled the garlics and I just threw it back into a bag with some duck fat in it and rolled it up and stuck it in the refrigerator. I'm probably going to roast some chicken and maybe use some of that for.
I think that's a great idea. I think you know what that would be great at? Buy some great bread. So the guy at the farmer's market, I forget which, it's the guy from the islands. He speaks French.
He's been there a while.
Yeah, he's been there for
he's
a long
fantastic.
time. So I'd buy some of his stuff, his just baguette, slice it on the bias, take, and just
Work it in.
lightly toast it,
Yeah.
but then hit it with some of that confit, that garlic.
That would be incredible.
Oh yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Well,
so that would be, so you could do that with a burgundy because it's earthy.
Yeah, but I'm still a little salty with the burgundy because it's so hard to. Like there's no shortcut in burgundy, right? There's no shortcut.
You do that, I got the burgundy. So let me ask you this. So this is a podcast.
Yeah.
You had to explain to me that a podcast it's just sound, not a camera.
Not
I was
yet.
very disappointed because
I unfortunately
dressed up.
I have a face made for radio.
right. So yeah, I have yes. So when you post this, however you do it, are you tag it using different tags on Instagram? Is it whatever tags you use? It's not the right word, but is this like politics, wine, Manassas, cooking? Like what are some of the tags one might use?
So I'm new to this, right?
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. I'm a tech guy. I'm new to this, and you have to pick a category. And I felt like the best category for this would be community, but there's not really a community.
We didn't have. We just said it was a conversation among people in Manassas.
It's news.
So I'll tell you who could come up with this, for real. So my next door neighbor,
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Caitlin,
Yeah.
she's a big time communicator. She's real talented.
She is.
And I love those guys, and they love us. I think, and she enjoys. She's really creative.
She is. I saw her patriotic porches.
Patriotic Porsches.
Yeah.
Her and Lisa Ortiz. They're both great. A lot of experience. And I think she could come up with a tagline or something else. She would know exactly what to do.
I mean, I want to get, so I don't want to, I'm torn a little bit, right? The whole idea behind this podcast is I have one episode up already, and it's just me saying basically, here's what this is about. And the idea is that back in the early aughts, we had the Washington Post and the Journal Messenger.
Right.
The Post had 4 people full time in their bureau in Old Town. And in the intervening 15 years, we have none of that. You got Uriah at Potomac Local.
Right.
You got the guys at Inside Nova. And, God bless them. They provide important information. But they're also trying to provide coverage on a huge area. And, people are still not used to paying for news on, online. Everything should be free, and there's all that. So this is an attempt to kind of go down the middle, right? And I think that, I want to have, I want to get stuff out there, and I'm willing to put up with, this setup is a little bit hinky, right? It's here's my desk.
I don't know.
Here.
I think it's pretty cool.
And I've got my old Mac here, and I've got some other crap, and but I feel like it's super important, especially right now, to get this kind of information out. And, I've invited the chair of the Republican Party to come on and talk about it. And I just found out who the, I guess, co-chairs of the Democrat Party. I want them to come on.
Who are they?
One lady's name is Cheryl, and I'm familiar with her through Rotary. The other woman, I don't remember her name, but someone online was kind enough to point it out.
And on the R side?
That's George Ellis.
Oh, George.
Yeah, George.
Right.
Teresa's husband.
Who's done, I think, a very credible job in
Yeah,
terms of getting things together.
George is a solid dude. So, but my idea for the podcast kind of is like, well, I've got, the mayor of Grand Avenue here. He's a longtime friend.
Yeah.
And if I screw something up, he's going to give me a look and kind of curve me, and that's completely cool. But, I also want Manassas is subject to a lot of different influences. George Mason, Chamber of Commerce, Micron, larger, elected people, state elected people, and community leaders. Half of the cattlemen could probably appear on this thing.
Right.
So that's kind of where I want to go with it. But I want it to be friendly. It's not adversarial.
No, this was great because I'm seeing one of my very best friends, and we really talked freely. This was nothing fake. But, so, the big question is, what is it that you want to accomplish? Now, today we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We touched upon some stuff. Big time cooking and wine.
Yeah.
But, you got to think about, we don't have to.
No. No. Well,
but what is it you want to accomplish, and what are the questions that need to be addressed, and with whom?
Yeah. So
that's hard or you could just say, I just want to do this to have fun.
Yeah.
And I do think a part of you wants to do this to be creative.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think there's a goal or an inchoate goal where you're trying to. That's a nice. I used that at the gym today.
Yeah. You confused everybody.
Yeah. What the fuck is he talking about? But you gotta. If there's a reason, but beyond fun.
I want to.
And I know there is.
I want to try and stitch it back together. Yeah, man. The Manassas, for a small jurisdiction, is a wildly complicated place. You have in the schools, 70% Latino people, in the general population, at least 50, and we've seen some Latino folks get into elected office. The Democrats, in a series of one or two elections, the Republicans were wiped out.
Right.
And, good, bad, or indifferent, that's what happened. But I feel like I want to have, what I don't want to do is, I don't want to don't worry about it, brother. I don't want to invite an elected official in here and just hammer them. I'm not interested.
Hammer them or throw them softballs.
No, I'm not interested in that.
But can't you have a sort of, well, no one will do it. But you could have a gentle, respectable discussion.
I think
you're not trying to jack with them,
right?
You got to, but they're just people. These are just people.
They're just people, and I think the important part is, if we got, I guess Wolf is the vice mayor now. If I got him on here, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm not going to say hey, tax increases are completely out of control. What are you going to do about it? It's going to be I'm going to take the other end of that argument, and it's going to be hey, Mark, look, or whoever. I don't want to single Mark. I've known Mark for a long time, but what's your vision for this? That people are concerned, about their tax bills or whatever. What's your vision for this? And I think that's a very fair way to come.
I think there's even a gentler way. You could say people are concerned because some are.
Yeah.
But you could just say people want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So look, we've touched upon a number of interesting things.
Literally everything.
This was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You're the first guy, brother. I'll see how much traction it gets. But that's kind of what I want to do, and I want a wider view. It's not just like a politics show. I've got a long history in politics, right? And I don't want any more history in politics. So, yeah, thanks for coming on. And
I loved it, man.
I figured you would agree to it, maybe with some trepidation.
Well, you know, here's the deal. Anytime you and I are going to speak, you say, Rich, you want to speak? And I go, yeah. And you go, or I go, can we have some drinks? You
Right.
go, yeah. And it's like, so the fact that it's recorded doesn't make a difference.
No.
So it was all truth and
No. I mean, these
Thank
are the
you.
kind of conversations we've had for a long time.
a long time. Yes.
Some were more immediate. When I was in office, I'd be calling you and I'd be like, hey, Rich, I've got a crisis, brother.
And I was honored. I was really honored.
Yeah. All right, dude.
you,
Thanks for
Andy.
your time, man.
God bless you.
All right.